24. The last two chapters of Joshua conclude the life of Joshua. In fact, in verse 29 and 30 of chapter 24, we have record of his death and his burial. These last two chapters record two separate incidents of Joshua gathering the people together through their representative leaders. And he rehearses God's unfailing faithfulness to them. And he reminds them of their corresponding responsibility to be faithful to him. So by the time we get to this point in the book of Joshua, Joshua has lived through slavery in Egypt. He has experienced 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. And for 25 years plus, he has been leading Israel in both conquest and peace. And then and through it all, he has been a faithful servant of God. In fact, he is buried as the servant of God, there in verses 29 and 30. Here we are. Israel has acquired the land that God had promised them. We come to these last two chapters, and Joshua is now old. Not only old, but he is infirm. We read in chapter 23 and verse 1, Joshua waxed old and stricken in age. That is, he had some problems due to his age. In verse 2 of chapter 23, we hear Joshua say, I am old and stricken in age. And in verse 14 of chapter 23, we hear him say, I am going the way of all the earth. So Joshua, realizing that his life and his time as the leader of Israel is coming to a close. And he also realizes that this was a very dangerous time for God's people. And he's heavily burdened for the spiritual welfare of the Lord's people. And he feels a sense of urgency. So twice, chapter 23 and chapter 24, he calls for a gathering to address the people of God. Our text will be part of this second gathering. Let's begin reading with verse 14 of chapter 24, and we'll read through verse 28. Now therefore, fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in truth. Put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people answered and said, God forbid that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For the Lord our God, He it is that brought us up and our fathers out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, and which did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way wherein we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. And the Lord drave out from before us all the people, even the Amorites, which dwelt in the land. Therefore will we also serve the Lord, for He is our God. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye cannot serve the Lord, for He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If ye forsake the Lord and serve strange gods, then He will turn and do you hurt and consume you. After that He hath done you good. And the people said unto Joshua, But we will serve the Lord. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye are witnesses against yourselves, that ye have chosen you the Lord to serve Him. And they said, We are witnesses. Now therefore, put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto the Lord God of Israel. And the people said unto Joshua, The Lord our God will we serve, and His voice will we obey. So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day, and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and took a great stone and set it up there under an oak that was by the sanctuary of the Lord. And Joshua said unto all the people, Behold, this stone shall be a witness unto us, for it hath heard all the words of the Lord which He spake unto us. It shall be therefore a witness unto you, lest ye deny your God. So Joshua let the people depart, every man into his inheritance. Again, this is a portion of his final address to the people of God. A final and departing charge to the people of God. We're told in verse 1 that this meeting, this gathering, took place at Shechem. This would have been a valley between Mount Ebal to the north and Mount Gerizim to the south. It was a very significant place in Israel's history. If you were to go back to Genesis 12, you would see that it was where Abraham first received promise that God would give his seed the land of Canaan. It was here in Shechem. It was also the place where Jacob stopped and buried the idols of his family, there in Genesis 35. It was here at Shechem that the Israelites came after the first phase of the conquest of Canaan. Joshua built an altar. He inscribes the law of God in stone pillars back in Joel chapter 8. That took place here at Shechem. So the people journey once again to Shechem to convene at this memorable place. The reason they're there is to hear what Joshua will say to them. We're also told in verse 1 that these presented themselves before God. So they gather at this place and they present themselves before God. What that means is that the presence of God was there. The presence of God was greatly felt. It also tells us that this was a very solemn and sacred occasion. This was not trivial. This was not a frivolous occasion. They presented themselves before God. It's a spiritual atmosphere. It's a spiritual atmosphere. And there stands Joshua. He's old. He's infirm. But in spite of his age, in spite of his infirmities, he's still a man of great faith, a man who loved the Lord, a man of great boldness and courage, resolve, and steadfastness, a man of conviction, a man of passion. And he begins in verse 2, and he says, "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel." Thus saith the Lord. He is the mouthpiece of God. And the people recognize him as such. And what follows through verse 15 is the message of God to the people. And in the latter part of verse 15, Joshua makes a very bold and very clear and definitive statement concerning himself. He says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." He is stating that it is his plan to serve God. He is stating that it is his resolve to serve the Lord. And then in verses 16 through 27, you have dialogue between Joshua and the people regarding the message of God to them. In verse 28, the people depart to their own places. But note the emphasis of God's message to the people. Verse 14, serve him. And the last part of the verse, serve ye the Lord. Verse 15, choose you this day whom ye will serve. Last part of the verse, we will serve the Lord. Verse 21, we will serve the Lord. Verse 24, the Lord our God will we serve. The emphasis is service to God. The point of emphasis is that there is a call to serve the Lord. So in this final address, God, through Joshua, was instructing, he was exhorting the people not only to serve God, but to make it their plan, make it their intent to serve God with their lives. He is saying, you make it your resolve to serve God. And that's our subject. Make it your life plan to serve God. We've mentioned several times in several messages that people need to plan to serve God. I don't believe most people do that. In fact, I believe very, very few actually plan, make it their chief plan to serve the Lord. First of all, notice there is a call that goes forth. Verse 14. Serve him. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. That's a call. It's a directive. It's a command. It goes forth from Joshua, the mouthpiece of God, directed to the people of God. It is a call to the people of God concerning something between them and God. Therefore, it's a matter of great importance. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It is a call that concerns their relation to God. It is a call that concerns their connection to the Lord. Not just for a day, but for their life. Serve Him. Not just today. Serve ye the Lord. Not just today, but all your life. Is there a time when those words do not apply? Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. So that's the call. Now notice there's an urgency to this call. Verse 14 opens with, now. Now. That's emphatical. It is a forceful and strong word of emphasis, of urgency. It is a word that states that what is about to be said is an urgent matter. Again, it concerns them and God. It's an urgent matter. It's a matter of extreme importance. It's a matter of priority concerning them and God. Now, something that demands immediate attention. This is not to be put off. Now. Now. Demands immediate attention. Also notice there is a motivating factor for the call. Verse 14, now therefore. The word therefore looks back and provides the reason or the motivation of the call. So the word therefore takes us back to prior to verse 14. And prior to verse 14, there was a reminder, verse 2, that He is the Lord God. There's a reminder of who He is. There was a reminder of verse 2 of what they were and where they came from. They served other gods. There was a reminder in verse 3 through 6, that God had brought them out of such. And in verse 7, that God had made a difference in their lives. And in verse 8, God had made them victorious over their enemies. And in verses 9 through 13, it was God who had blessed them. In verses 2 through 13, it is Joshua or you could say God, Joshua's the mouthpiece, reiterating their history, reminding them what God had done in their lives. Notice verse 3. I took. Verses 2 through 13. There are 17 personal pronouns referring to God. 17 times you have the personal pronoun I. Each time it is followed by a verb, something He did on their behalf. Verse 3, I took. Verse 4, I gave. Again, verse 4, I gave. Verse 5, I sent. I played. I did. I brought. Verse 6, I brought. Verse 7, I have. Verse 8, I brought. I gave. I destroyed. Verse 10, I would. I delivered. Verse 11, I delivered. Verse 12, I sent. Verse 13, I have. It's all about what God has done in their lives. God is saying through Joshua, it's all me. It's all me. And it's all about me. That's the message. It's all me. It's all about Him. We need to hear that message. We need to receive that message. It is God that brought you out from where you were. It is God that has made a difference in your life. It is God that has granted you victories. And it is God that has blessed you. And it is God that has watched over you. You need to hear that message. That message needs to find lodging in our hearts. And then we come to these two words. Now therefore. Now therefore. Notice also this call involves a certain spirit and attitude. Verse 14. Now therefore, fear, reverence the Lord. That's a matter of the heart. And it's absolutely necessary to what follows. And serve Him. Serve Him. And do so in sincerity and in truth. Put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, prior to the flood. Put away the gods that your fathers served in Egypt. Fear the Lord. Do so now. Now fear the Lord. Now therefore, because of who He is and what He has done, fear the Lord. So it is a call to a certain spirit. The problem is, many people try to serve the Lord without having the spirit of doing so. Without having the attitude of doing so. It's a call to a certain spirit, an attitude relational to the Lord. It is a call to do something relational to the Lord. Notice again verse 14. Now therefore fear the Lord and serve Him. What are we to do? We're to serve Him. We're to serve Him. It's a call that is heard throughout the Word of God. So when Joshua stood in Shechem that day and said, "Serve him. Serve ye the Lord," he's talking to a people who knew what is meant to serve the Lord. He didn't have to define what service to the Lord was. When he said, "Serve the Lord," no one said, "Well, what do you mean by that, Joshua?" They knew what he meant. So he's speaking to a people who knew what it meant to serve the Lord. It was not something left to their interpretation. Today, in many religious circles, call goes forth to young people to be involved in service to the Lord. Dedicate your life to full-time service. But the problem is, it's left to them to decide what that service is. That's never the case. That's never the case. It's left to them to determine what service is. When he said, "Serve him and serve the Lord," they knew that it wasn't up to them to determine how. It wasn't up to them to determine where. They were to serve. And that was God's business. That was God's business. It's not our business to decide how we will serve. That's God's business. Many today, in the name of the Lord's service, do what they please and where they please. But service to God is never independent of God. It is never independent of His will or His way. In other words, service to God is not freelance. You serve how God tells you to serve. You do what God tells you to do. So in verse 14, we hear Joshua say, "Serve him. Serve ye the Lord." Notice him. Notice the Lord. He's the object of the service. We are not the object of the service. We are never to become the object of the service. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It's a call to dedicate, to commit, to surrender to the government, the rule, the will, the ways, and the interests of God. Well, I'm interested. It doesn't matter what you're interested in. Service to God is about His interests. The truth is, our interest ought to be His interest. It is a call. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It is a call to willingly make themselves available and to be at the disposal of God. It's amazing how many people will say they want to serve God, but they're not available to God. They're too busy to be available. In other words, Lord, I'll serve you if it fits into my schedule. I'll work you in somewhere, Lord. That's the attitude. But it's a call to make ourselves available. Well, available when? Always. Always. If there's ever a time you're unavailable to God, well, God can make you available, I realize that. But if there's ever a time when you're unavailable to God, you're wrong. You're in the wrong place. Serve Him. It's a call to align themselves with God and His work. It's not aligning God to our plans, but it's aligning ourselves to God. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord is a call to allegiance to God. To be identified with Him. Somewhat sad of the allegiances that many of God's people have. Our allegiance is to Him. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It's a call to prefer God. It's a call to esteem God and His will and His ways above all else. Serve the Lord. It's a call for God and His ways to be our resolve, our purpose. What is our purpose in life? It's serve the Lord. That's our purpose. Well, God has given us a variety of responsibilities and places us in positions. But our purpose in all of that is to serve God. Serve God. What I'm saying is, it's not God's purpose. Your purpose in life, okay, someone says, I'm a printer. That's your position. That's not your purpose in life. Your purpose is then to serve God as a printer. Or whatever. I'm a real estate agent. That's my calling in life. No, that's not your calling. Your calling is to be a servant of God. And you just happen to be a real estate agent. So you serve God in that position. It's all about Him. Whatever our job, whatever our career is, our purpose is to serve God in that position. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It's called to be holy, to be separated unto God. It's a call to walk with God. It's a call to please God and to stand with and for God. It's a call to be actively engaged and occupied in the business of the Lord. I've seen people who say they want to serve God. The problem is they have no interest in God's business. None whatsoever. It's a call to glorify God. It's a call to show forth God. And they were to do this in sincerity. That is, undividedly. And in truth. Without hypocrisy. Serve the Lord in sincerity and in truth. It's just another way of saying that our service to God is to be clear. It's to be well defined. It's to be unmistakable. It's to be visible. It's to be obvious. It's to be very pronounced. It is also a call to be something relational to the Lord. Again, serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. That's a call to be something. To be what? A servant. It's a call to be a servant. A servant. A servant is one that is for the use of another. So, serve Him means that I am to be in the position to be of use to God. To be a servant means that you wait upon someone else. Well, I'm not about to do that. No, you're probably not. But you won't be a servant of God either. It means we wait upon God. We wait upon Him for our instruction. We do whatever He bids. We're a servant. A servant is a position of humility, position of submission. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. That is a call to be in a specific post or position relational to the Lord. And that post and position is a servant. A servant. It is a personal and all-encompassing call. Just serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. That's a personal responsibility. It's our number one responsibility. We have numerous responsibilities in life. But our number one responsibility, always, is to serve Him. It's to serve ye the Lord. It's a personal requirement that God has put upon us. And make no mistake about it, it's an urgent matter. It's a matter of extreme importance. It's a matter of great consequence. It's to be a matter of priority. It is something that demands our immediate attention. So hear the call. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. And notice that it is not conditioned upon circumstances. Regardless of your circumstances, serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. Notice there is no mention of time. Well, this just isn't a good time. I wish it were, but there's no condition of time here. Regardless of time, serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. There's no condition of place. Wherever life takes you, serve Him. It's an all-encompassing call. Whether you be a wife, a husband, a father, a mother, an employer or an employee, none of that matters. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It's what we are to do in life. It's what we're to be in life. It is a heavenly call. Joshua again in verse 2 said, Thus saith the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It is a call from above. Therefore, it's a heavenly call. It takes precedence over all other callings. It's a heavenly call. It takes precedence over all that is earthly. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. It's a call that ought to have a powerful drawing upon us. I've got to do this. Serve Him. Serve Him. Serve Him. That's our purpose. That's our function. That's our occupation. That's our business. And it's what demands our attention and our effort. So it is a call that takes precedence over all other callings. It's a call that gives us a foundation on which to base all of our decisions. People make decisions all the time talking about God's people. And God's not even considered in the decision. This is the foundation. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. You make that the primary purpose, and guess what? The decision's already made. There's nothing to think about. It's the foundation of how we allocate our time and how we use our resources. It's the realization of this calling that keeps everything in perspective. Serve Him. It is the realization of this calling that enables us to loosen our grip on the things of this world and yield to Christ. It is the realization of this calling that prevents us from assigning a false value on the things of this world. It is the realization of our main calling that helps us concentrate our effort and our energy on what's really important. So the call goes forth to each of the saved. Serve Him. It really goes forth to all of creation. Serve ye the Lord. Do we feel the urgency of that call? That brings us to the response to the call. After the call is issued, serve ye the Lord. Joshua, because Joshua knew these people, because Joshua knew human nature, Joshua supposed, and it's not a far out one, he supposed a possible scenario. Verse 15, and if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord. If it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord. If it is displeasing to you to serve the Lord. All service to God for many of God's people is a displeasing thing. If it seems disagreeable, oh, how can anybody disagree? Oh, we do it all the time. God says do this, and you say, yeah, I'm going to do this. It's disagreeing. If it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord. If it's bothersome for you to serve the Lord. Joshua knew God's people. If it bothers you to serve God. I've had people tell me, well, Brother Dan, you know God doesn't demand everything. Well, He does. He really does. And let's just be honest, that bothers you. That bothers folks. If it seem evil. If service to God becomes uninteresting to you, it's not as interesting as something else. Oh, that happens all the time. It's unsatisfying. So he's supposing, based in reality, he is supposing a case where they just might be unwilling to fully commit to God. Could you imagine? God's people just might be unwilling to fully commit to God. I don't know that any of us are truly interested in fully committing to God. He is supposing that there might be a case where they find some supposed reason to not serve God. Oh, that happens all the time. Well, you know I would serve, but my husband, but my wife, or children or grandchildren, whatever. They've decided I can't, I'm not going to, and I have good reasons not. Joshua is supposing all of these scenarios. And then he warns them. If such be the case, then choose your own poison. Is basically what he's saying. Verse 15 is misinterpreted almost every time it's read. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve. Right there they say you have to choose between God. Well, that's not what he's saying here. He is saying if you find it evil to serve God, then you need to make a choice between the false gods. Whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or, here's the choice you're making. You choose the gods your fathers chose before the flood, or you choose the God of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. In other words, if you find a reason not to serve God, you will serve other gods. So choose your poison. Is it going to be the gods before the flood or the gods of the Amorites? Which is it? Joshua then in a very clear way says, as for me, my house, we will serve the Lord. He's saying no matter what happens, no matter what everybody else does, I plan on serving God. And I plan on leading my family in such. That's my plan. That's my life plan. To serve God. Everything else is a sideline. This is my life plan. And then the people would say, Verse 16, God forbid that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. And in verse 21, we will serve the Lord. And in verse 24, the Lord our God we will we serve. So they are saying, along with Joshua, we are determined. We are planning on serving God. No conditions, no stipulations. This is our intent. This is our aim. This is our purpose. This is our desire. We will serve God with our lives. That was their plan. And we need to stand with Joshua, stand with the people here, and boldly say, it is my plan to be fully dedicated, committed, and surrendered to the God who saved my soul. Now, through the years, I have noticed people have plans. We all do. Nothing wrong with that. Problem is, what is your chief plan? The problem is, how willing are you to adjust your plans? And what I have discovered is that God's people are very willing to adjust their plan to serve God, but not so willing to adjust their plans for whatever, recreation, vacation, whatever. I've seen people who have a plan. These dates, we are going to such and such a place for family vacation. Been planning this for a whole year. Been saving our money for it. It's been a priority. Give it a lot of thought. And I've seen it happen. A church member, one day before they're getting ready to leave for their trip, this family that has a plan, a church member to whom they're fairly close to passes away. Well, Brother Dan, you know, I'd like to be there for a funeral, but we've had this plan. I don't even want to hear it. I can't even listen. That's sad. But that's how people are. They have this plan. We need to have a plan. And our plan needs to be, I'm going to serve God. And I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I won't do this, and I won't go there, because I have a plan. A plan to serve God. That should be our plan. Because I've noticed this about plans. Plans have an effect upon our thoughts. Plans have an effect upon our attitudes. Has an effect upon our outlook. I've seen people, they're grumpy all the time. I mean, they're never in a good mood until the day before they're getting ready to go on their family vacation. They've been planning all year. Now all of a sudden, their attitudes changed. Their mood has changed. All because of a plan. Plans have a great effect upon us. They have an effect upon our activities. Where there's a plan to do something, priorities are established. And when it's our plan to serve God, priorities are established. Plan to serve God. It's our life calling. Don't allow anybody or anything to interrupt that plan to serve God. Not circumstances. Circumstances change. But you serve God in those changing circumstances. Feelings. Feelings change all the time. Well, I don't feel like serving God today. Serve Him anyway. Get right and serve Him anyway. You don't let circumstances, you don't let feelings, you don't let moods get in your way of serving God. Serve Him. Serve ye the Lord. Make it your plan to serve God. Lastly, in verse 31, in Israel, no, I want verse 29. And it came to pass after these things that Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died. How did he die? He died as the servant of the Lord. No better way to die than as the servant of the Lord. Well, how do I accomplish that? Only one way. Live your life serving Him. If you want to die the servant of the Lord, you have to live life serving the Lord. He died as the servant of the Lord. That ought to be how we want to die. And again, the only way to accomplish that is to live as the servant of the Lord. Obituaries interest me, almost in a problematic way, perhaps. I'm infatuated with them. Every funeral I preach, I write that person's obituary my own way. Obituaries interest me. I read them a lot. Obituaries say a lot. It's pretty sad when, and I've seen it, and we put this on the family members because they're the ones left with that responsibility. Someone has faithfully served God, faithfully served the Lord in the church. And their family, they're also in the church. Comes time to give the details of the obituary. He was a dedicated member of such and such a union. And it goes on and on. His interest in life was fishing. His interest in life was such and such. He was the world's biggest Cubs fan. Not a single mention. He faithfully served the Lord in such and such a church. Just all these other things. That's why I write my own obituaries. To undo some of the other nonsense that people think are important. And I've even had people call, well, you didn't mention that he was such and such. No, I didn't. You know why? Because it wasn't important. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If we're going to serve God, we'd better learn real quick what matters and what doesn't. And human nature seems to have a very difficult time in understanding that. Serve the Lord. Make it your plan to serve God. Brother Ben, if you'll come and lead us in a verse of song.